Hey guys, welcome back to Vertical Momentum. I'm your host, Richard Kaufman, also known as the Comeback Coach. Guys, if you think you've been through some shit, this gentleman here has been through some serious shit, and he's come out the other side, and he's going to tell us exactly how he did it. So, guys, this is going to be a fun episode, but it's going to be a serious episode. So, if you know somebody is struggling, or if you're struggling, make sure you share this and tag this out because this is going to be a life-changing episode. Chad, my brother, what's going on?
Man, I am so stoked to be here. Thank you for having me.
Oh, man, I was talking to somebody right before I came on. I said, you know what? I've been through a lot of shit, but he got me beat. And yeah. I think that's why I think me and you are here. We've been there, done that, got the T-shirt and threw it away. But now we're here to help others.
Yes.
So talk to us a little bit about you, where you come from, where you grew up. What kind of little boy was Chad?
So I grew up in a small town in Virginia, and my mom struggled with drug addiction basically her whole life. And when I was born with Erb's palsy, and the left side of my body wasn't functioning. The doctors told her, hey, you have this window of time to, work with him and get some of that function back. She took a hiatus from the drugs. She helped me out, which was, I thank God every day that she did. But as soon as I regained that motion, she kind of fell back into that fight that she had with her demons and her drug use. But it got way worse than it had ever gotten before. It was to the point where the job didn't matter. Nothing mattered, right? Besides her next fix. And it progressively went from alcohol to marijuana to then crack cocaine. And when she got to the crack, it was a nightmare, man. I remember days where she was butt naked, looking for her next crack rock that she thought was in the couch or on the floor somewhere that she didn't see. It was bad, right? And I stopped going to school. I was a troubled kid, man. Like I was mad at the world. I didn't give a shit. I would have challenged any type of authority on a regular basis just because there was no other reason other than I was just mad and I wanted to challenge everything. At 14, my house was raided by a whole bunch of different law enforcement agencies. My mom was sent to prison, and I was sent to go live with family members that I really didn't know. And it was supposed to be a good thing for me, right? But it wasn't at all. They were really into the church, and if people are in the church, that's fine. I know that's an outlet for a lot of people, but they had a position in the church, and it was like they were above reproach, right? At 14 years old, 14 and a half, I was made to stand in the corner like a 5-year-old. I would have to eat there, do my schoolwork there, and stay there until it was bedtime. Every time I would get in trouble. And then when they would beat me, they had this paddle. And I'm not against spanking your kids, but there's a line, right? And I had whelps, and I was black and blue and bleeding from the top of my ass all the way to the bottom, like the top part of my thigh. And, I couldn't do it. They wouldn't allow me to talk to anyone from Virginia. My grandmother, my aunts from there, no one. All of my mail was read before I got it. They would listen into my conversations. The few times I remember actually being able to hear the voice of someone I actually knew, right? So they cut me off from everything that was familiar in my life, that was comforting at that time. And I just broke, man, and I ran away.
Because thinking back to that, because that sounds like total abuse, by the way. And I know that. But it sounds like, first of all, you're angry at you're angry at the family, you're angry at the parents, and then for me, it sounds like if I'm at that age and everybody around me is religious, but they treat me like shit, I'm gonna be angry with God. And for me, because I grew up without a father, I didn't like men to begin with. And then I see all this happening around me, and I'm like, well, I don't want anything to do with God if it's like this.
Dude, yes, 100%. I was angry. Yeah, I was angry at him. That, like, it's weird. My relationship with the church is weird because my grandmother, who I love, she was my rock growing up. I think any family member that has a good grandmother, you gravitate to them, especially when there's hardship. And my grandmother was that resource for me. She was that lifeline. And so she put me in church every chance that she got before I got shipped away to Oklahoma. And then when I finally ran away, because the first time I ran away, I got caught by the police. And I didn't know that in Oklahoma they had a curfew for, kids under 18. It was funny because they caught me at a gas station. I was so hungry. I took off on my bike after school and I was just riding around, right? I had no idea of where to go or how I was going to pull this thing off. I just knew I didn't want to be in their home. So I'm just riding around the Broken Arrow, Oklahoma area. And I stop at this gas station and there's donuts going around in that little case that it rotates in. And I'm just, following them things like they're damn steaks, And the cashier was like, "Oh, you hungry, baby?" And I guess she knew that I was a runaway. And so she acted like she was going to go get me like a little plastic container to put food in, but really she called the police. And so I got, caught. But the second time I got away, right? The second time I finagled, I hitchhiked all the way to the airport. I was able to get a hold of my grandmother. They sent, tickets and I was able to get out of there. And then I was arrested once I got back to Virginia by the police because I was on probation. I didn't know I was on probation from the raid that took place at my house. And so when I got there, they arrested me again, but they eventually gave custody to an aunt that lived in Virginia. But the damage was really done, man. Like I was super, like I said, pissed off at just life. And I didn't understand why my world was the way it was, right? Didn't believe in myself. And when I got back to Virginia, they sent me to a school outside of my district because the one in my district wouldn't accept me. And the universe works in mysterious ways. In that school was who is my wife now. And we've been together for 24 years, married for 19. And she saved my life, man. She was like that light in a dark room, right? And I didn't know there was light, right, in my world. And so she basically said, "Hey, dude, if you want to be with me, you're gonna have to get your shit straight, right? Like you can't go back to selling drugs, and you can't run the streets. You got to separate yourself from those things." And it took me a while to do so, but I eventually did. Ended up getting a factory job. We were still in low income housing, and after my second child was born, I was looking around and I was like, "Man, I don't want him to grow up like me." So I joined the army. My grandpa.
Wait, hold on. I want to hop back real quick.
Yeah, man.
Because I have 3 children. One of them is on the spectrum.
Oh yeah.
And so now, not only did you have 2 children, you had 2 autistic children. Yeah. So that's a whole different deal.
Yeah. So like I had my first 2 before I joined the military, and then I had my second 2 while I was in the military, and so 4 altogether. And my daughter ended up having a stroke while I was in Germany. And then my 2 youngest are both autistic, and they're both on 2 different ends of the spectrum, which is you understand. Or I mean, I don't think 2 autistic children will ever be the same. Like they're different, than each other, which I guess we all are in our own ways, but stark differences, right? And the spectrum is so vast. It is a learning curve that you have to get past for sure. It's rough.
Yeah. So now talk to us, because as you know, I did 23 years in the military. Would have done 30 if I didn't get hurt. But talk to us about going to the recruiter, your first time in a recruiting station, and what was that like?
So I tried to join the Marines first, and they wouldn't accept me because I had dropped out of high school. I dropped out in 9th grade. I had tattoos all over my forearms. And so they wouldn't accept me. So the Army, they gave my name to an Army recruiter. And so she called me, and, I was already in my mind, like, this is the answer, right? I don't have any other things in my life to leverage. So when I went to the recruiting station, they played this video for me of these guys coming out of like this long grass and helicopters flying over them. And they played the same one in the MEP station as well. So, but it hooked me right there. So I took the pre-ASVAB and I did pretty good on it. And so it was a shoo-in for me. Like they didn't have to work really hard. When I walked in, I knew that I was going to join the Army, right? Like, or I was going to join somebody, right? I was going in the military one way or the other because I felt like that was the only option I had to give my kids and my wife something more than what I had in my life. So they didn't have to work hard, you know. I was a shoo-in right off the rip, you know.
Now, what job did you choose and why?
19 Delta Cavalry Scout. Yep. And I did it because, all right, so it's weird. Most of the friends I grew up with were, their family were Marines, right? And so I had a buddy who was Force Recon, and he was about 6 years older than me. And he talked to me about his time in the military, and it just attracted me, right? And so when they played the video for me, I was like, man, I want to do something high speed like that, right? So I went for it, right? And I don't know why I didn't want to go 11 bang bang. I can't even remember why, but I think it was a video they played me that was the different things that I qualified for. And when they showed the 19 Delta one, I was just hooked. It was the video, man. The video got me, and I was like, yeah, dude, that's me. I want to do something crazy, right? And so that it was a wrap, man. Right from jump.
Now, from a kid off the street, like I was a kid from the streetwise, because sometimes I know a lot of people that are book smart but have no street sense, no common sense. So, what was it like, getting to basic training? And did you take to the military quickly?
No. You hit the nail on the head. I'm a kid from the streets, no guidance, no structure. I've had zero discipline in my life. And all of a sudden I'm thrown in this situation with grown ass men yelling at you, right? And you can't respond. You can't, you know what I mean? I mean, you could, but you get your ass whooped, right? There was no point in trying to buck that, right? I'll never forget. So they strip you down and they take all your stuff away, and then they give you all the gear. They put you in these 2 duffel bags, right? And so our barracks, they was a little bit away from wherever that area was where they made us stand there and empty out everything and then put it back in the duffel bag. So they made us run to the barracks, and there was a 5-ton waiting with 2 of our duffel bags. And we grabbed the duffel bags, and where our platoon was on the 3rd floor. So you have to go up 3 flights of stairs, and you got this drill sergeant, get the fuck up the stairs, double time, bitch, right? And you're like, oh, okay. And I'll never forget, man, as I'm going up the 2nd flight, there's a kid beside me, and there's a drill sergeant like right above us at that where it levels off before you hit the 3rd, flight of stairs. And he looks at the drill sergeant and he's like, Sergeant, I can't do this. My heart, I might die. And the drill sergeant looks at this kid and says, then fucking die. Start over, motherfucker. Dude, I'm not going to lie to you. My heart sunk, and I was like, what the shit did I just get myself into? Like, Chad, you were dumb. You were dumb, right? Like that haunted me the first week I was in basic training, because I just kept replaying that they gave 0 shits about this guy's life, right? And I'm sure he was just bitching out, but not having experienced that level of intensity in my life, it was just different, right? So at first it was tough, right? But once I accepted the fact that there was no turning back, like there was no way out, I was stuck here, I had made this decision, I fell in love with it, man. I immersed myself into being a soldier, and I really found my jam. Like I just became really good at being a soldier, and I would have done 30 if I had not gotten hurt, right? Like I really would have.
Now, how many years did you put in?
10.
So yep. Of course, everybody knows once you hit that 10-year mark, you're pretty much going to do the whole bitch. You're going to do the whole thing unless you get hurt. So, if you wouldn't mind, I mean, let us know, tell us a little bit about, what happened, and, what was it like? Because I know the day I got hurt on duty, I lost my vision. Military says you can't see, you can't shoot. We don't need your ass.
Yeah.
So they medically discharged me on Memorial Day 2012, and that was the day that I attempted suicide. Yeah. Because for the 23 years I was Sergeant Kaufman,
right,
and then now all of a sudden you're Richard. Who the hell is Richard? Yeah. And I didn't know, and it scared the hell out of me. Yeah. So talk to us about your injury, what happened, and then what was it like when you finally get out?
So I had multiple injuries that kind of stacked against me, and that's how they ended up wanting to retire me. So I was in Iraq, and I went off a roof head first, and my nods, or my night vision, went into my eye, and the jelly around my retina got like dented in, if you will, right? And so I see like blotches and spots out of my right eye, which is my shooting eye. It is what it is. But then also my neck got jacked up, and then I started having multiple surgeries, like just out of training and just constant physical activity. I've had multiple surgeries, and I began to forget things. I began to not be able to retain a lot of the knowledge. And like, I think the breaking point for them was I was at a red light and didn't even know I was there, right? Like I was completely gone, right? And so I think the head trauma, just constant head trauma, because I've been blown up a few times. And then I went into being a combat applications instructor, and I was a very hands-on kind of guy, right? So I would get into the mix with a lot of the students, and so I ended up getting a lot of head trauma. And in the end, they were like, "You're done." And they did tell me that if I wanted to take a different MOS, that they would have probably allowed me to stay in, but I couldn't see myself not doing a combat job. Like this is who I was. I had worked really hard to be where I was, and I didn't want to accept that, right? And so they didn't really give me much of a choice after that. They said it was this or that, and so when I got out, they medically retired me in 2015, and that was out of all the things that I've been through, that was the darkest period of my life. I had a gun to my head. I was butt naked, pistol in my hand. And if it wasn't for my dog licking me and not stopping, I would have probably squeezed the trigger, right? Like I was miserable, man. I think they give us this mission and what we have to be to accomplish that mission. Like it's not just the mission, because the mission shifts, right? Whether it's Iraq, Afghanistan, whatever, right? The mission shifts, but who we are to accomplish that mission stays the same. And when you strip that away and you say you're no longer that, and then you're stuck in a completely different environment where that way of life or that way of living doesn't fit too well, right? Like you can't go into a normal civilian job and be like, "Hey, motherfucker, let's go." Right? Like you can't do that. You'll get fired. But in the Army, you can call somebody a fuckface and they'll high five you right afterwards, right? Like it's two different mindsets and ways of life. And when you get that stripped away from you, it's like a dog chasing his tail. You just don't know what you're doing, man. You're just going in circles. And I was in a revolving door. And I'll tell you, the other thing is, I think that when that vision or that mission was stripped from me, I struggled a little bit with PTSD while I was in the military, but nothing like when I got out. When I got out, it was like my entire past hit me, not just the military, everything from my mom, everything. Like the military gave me a way to place my energy into something positive, right? So I didn't necessarily think about all the fucked up shit I had been through or that I was still facing, right? We all have buddies that, along the line of duty have either died, or I have a lot of friends that have committed suicide. And when you have when you have a focus, man, it's just different, right? When you don't have that anymore and you're not allowed to live and have that place to put the energy, man, it's just a different world, dude.
Like my friend Sergeant Nick talks about, Nick Valentine talks about, once you step off base, the military does not give a shit about you.
No.
Your phone stops ringing. You don't have a mission. You don't have a career. You're broke, busted, and disgusted, and you feel all alone. Yeah. Now, and for me, I'm not an expert in no way, but now I've had over almost 500 interviews. I find that when an adult acts out as an adult, when a kid acts out as an adult, it's usually because of stuff that happened between the ages of 3 and 13. Then you add military to the mix. You add war to the mix sometimes, not all the time. And then you add alcohol or drugs to the mix. And you have a perfect storm.
Oh, God, yeah.
And nobody tells you how to get out of the perfect storm unless they've been there. And I think a lot of the problem is you go to the VA and you're talking to somebody that's just got out of college and has no idea what you're talking about, like we are. You know what I mean? I think that's a struggle that a lot of us vets go through.
Yeah, man. I went to, I started drinking every night for the nightmares, and to try to combat that turned into a fifth a day on a good day, right? On top of that, I was smoking marijuana, just like an ounce. And I'm not against that, right? But for me, it was not because I did it to help me. I did it to numb my mind. And I began to detach away from my wife, my kids, just everybody, dude. Like, I didn't want to go anywhere. It was, I was in a really gnarly space, man. Like, I did not want to exist. And I think one of the keys to me succeeding is realizing that I'm still the same dude, right? Like, I'm going to be me regardless. And so it's not about what this world will accept or won't accept. I'm going to be Chad Osinga regardless, right? And so the things that I have learned to be and I've taken away, that's me. And I'm not going to apologize for it. I'm going to be me regardless. And if you don't like it, you can fucking kick rocks, right? That is what it is.
All right, so hold on 1 second. I want to first, before we do anything, now I want to start talking about the comeback story, because I am the underdog. I love the underdog. Every movie I watch, I go for the underdog all the time. I love a comeback story. So before we get on to that, I want to thank you, first of all, for purchasing our coffee. I truly appreciate you, brother. But we came out with our own brand new coffee, Vertical Momentum Coffee. It's twice the amount of caffeine, great taste, no crash, and the best thing, all the money goes to help veterans struggling with homelessness and PTSD. So if you love coffee, if you love a mission, check out Vertical Momentum Coffee, or just write coffee below and I'll get you the information. So now, Chad, talk to me about your, even some people don't like the word come to Jesus moment, but I like it. So what was your come to Jesus moment where you're like, all right, I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired?
Yeah, well, I'm hard-headed like most of us vets, right? And so it took a lot. I didn't mention that my daughter had a stroke. Well, I think I did in the very beginning. And when I got out in 2015, around 2018, I started riding motorcycles to try to combat, my mind. And I was taking a left turn at a red light, and this kid, like 19, 20 years old, he blows through the red light. And he whacks me at 45 miles an hour. He didn't even touch his damn brakes, man. And he puts me into a guardrail. And I'm already jacked up from, my military service. And so now I have this car that hit me, and I'm in a lot of pain. But I didn't change, right? It took me about a year to, get back to a place where I felt healthy enough to get back on a motorcycle. And I wanted to face the fear, man. Because I was scared. I'm not going to lie. Every intersection, every car that merged over, like, my heart rate would just skyrocket, probably had almost a stroke, you know what I mean? And so I knew I had to face it, right? Or I was going to not be able to function the right way. So I get back on a motorcycle in 2020. But this time I'm with 5 other dudes, okay? And we're on I-95 going south. They're expanding the road, or that part of the highway in that area. And this van not paying any attention. How you don't hear 5 Harley Davidsons, mind blown, man. Like I don't know how this can even happen. But at 65 miles an hour, he jerks the van over into my lane and he hits me. He hit me so hard that my bike never fell back down. It went into the Jersey barrier and just stayed, like it was imprinted into the Jersey barrier. I have pictures of it. It's gnarly, dude. And I went into the construction zone. A few of the guys on the ride were military, so they applied first aid, thank God. But on the way to the first hospital, I flatlined. And they I guess they realized I needed a trauma center, and where the hospital they took me to was not a trauma center. So they had to medevac me to VCU in Richmond, Virginia. And there they underwent the first surgery. And when they opened me up, they realized that the damage was way worse than the MRI showed. Like it was really, really bad. So I had to get scheduled for a second emergency surgery. Right before I went into the room to have surgery, I flatlined again. And they were like talking to me, just like I'm talking to you. I think that I'm speaking clearly, but I'm like blah, 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 blah to them, right? And so they assume that I'm having a stroke. My heart rate is in the 190, 195 range, I believe is what they told me. And that's really all I remember. Everything went, I'm gone, right? I wake up in a room and 2 nurses are holding me butt naked, and there's a doctor like kind of above me, and everything's really blurry vision wise, but I can hear everything crystal clear. And I guess they didn't realize I had come to, because they're, talking about me flatlining again and how, they need to do X, Y, and Z to ensure that my heart rate goes down so they can save my life. And I just, whoever it was that was right above me, I'm assuming it was the doctor, I just pleaded with him. I was like, man, my kids need me, dude. Like, I need you to save me. And I think it was clear. I don't know. In my mind, it was clear. And they did. They saved me. I was in the hospital for 14 days altogether, in ICU for 7 days. And I've had over 5 surgeries. I need more. My hand, my right hand, only my pinky and right, like I can do that. And you can see the scar. That's after surgery. Like, while I was in ICU, though, I realized that I had a lot of shit on the inside of me that I just never dealt with, right? And there was no alcohol there. There was no weed there. There's just me, myself, and I, right? It's 2020, so coronavirus. My family couldn't come see me. My phone was on the bike when they hit me, so I didn't have a phone. You can only watch so many reruns, man. And the demons were coming, dude. Like, so it wasn't like I could just say, no, stop. I'm in the hospital right now. No bad dreams today, right? Time became non-existent, right? Like, so at 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning, I was still battling me, and it would go on all day and all night. And I ended up slaying a lot of my past, right? Not to say that it doesn't still come back. I still have my nightmares. I still have things, because I think that trauma doesn't go away, right? Like I don't know if you can ever stop it, because it's a piece of you, right? But what I did do is like a route, I traced it all the way to where it originated from. And I began to study it, and it's part of my framework with fear, because the thing is that fear is it's supposed to be an active sense, right? Like it's in our DNA to have fear when there's an active threat. That's why we have the fight or flight reflex, right? But if it's in the past, that means it's already done, right? It's not real. It's not that it's not real, but it's not active. It's not an active threat. It's done, right? And once I realized that I was running from something that wasn't really chasing me, right? Because it had already happened, man. Like this revolving door I was stuck in, I had placed myself there. And so I began to study why I was scared and all the different things that came with that. And I became a student of me, if that makes any kind of sense. I don't know if it does.
Me, and like I'm also a coach, and one of the things I coach about, I'm actually making a 12-week course. It's called the 3 Pillars of Forgiveness. A lot of times, in order to be free, I learned a lot of this from going to 12-step programs because I've been clean 33 years now. But, I teach people that if you want to be free, first, you got to clear the wreckage of your past, or else you can't really move on. So you got to forgive people that hurt you. Not forget, but forgive.
Yeah.
Ask people that you've hurt to forgive you for the things you've done. And also the hardest part is to forgive yourself, because that's the hardest part of it all. And if you can do those 3 things, you can clear a lot of the wreckage from the past and, get rid of a lot of stuff that we're carrying. Because sometimes we're carrying around stuff since we're 5, 7 years old. We're still carrying it around, and we're putting it onto our kids. I believe you can bring a generational curse, or you can bring a generational blessing.
Yes.
I decided the generational curse to stop with me.
Amen.
And so is that something what you're talking about as you're going through your past, trying to deal with this stuff in a hospital room?
Yeah, dude. Like I did forgive myself because I wore a lot of blame for things within my life, things in the military, things overseas that I felt like should have happened a certain way, and it didn't happen that way. And I blame myself for it not, flowing the way we trained and we, prepared for it to train. But the thing is that we joined a dangerous line of work, man. I have a lot of buddies that have passed just in training accidents, right? Like I just had a buddy die on a jump, right? And before that, I think it was 2 months before that, I had a buddy go off a Black Hawk in a training exercise and passed away, right? Like what we do in the military is dangerous. And we always think that, oh man, it's not going to happen to us until it does, right? And then we wear this blame that we should have done X, Y, Z. But the truth is, it's a dangerous line of work, right? Like that is the nuts and bolts of what we signed up to do. And there's probably very few things we could have done differently to have a different outcome. So I just take that and I look objectively now at my life. And that was the key for me, is to look objectively instead of being so emotionally attached to decisions I made or the past. Just look objectively and look at it for what it really is. Right. And then I take that information and I apply it to right now. So that way my tomorrow looks better, because all we can do is make the next right decision. We can't, I can't change what has or has not happened, man. Like it's done. It's in the books, man. But what I can change is what I'm doing right now. So that way my tomorrow looks, cleaner. Right. And so
like one thing that really changed my life was something that one of my mentors taught me. His name is Mr. Ed Milet.
Oh, I love that guy.
He says, things happen to you. I mean, things happen for you, not to you. And that everything is a teachable moment. Right. So, and I believe, like I said, whatever's happened in my life, it was meant to happen.
Yes.
I can become a better man, so I can teach other men not to do the things that I did. So do you agree on that? The things that now, as you've gone through a lot of that, because a lot of people don't realize, like if you've ever been in an MRI by yourself for a couple hours and you're alone with your thoughts, it's a scary place to be.
It is.
But when you come out of it, like you were there for 14 days, when you come out of that bed alone, you became a lot closer to yourself, if that makes a sense.
Oh, it did. Yeah.
What was it like? Okay, now you're 14 days, no drugs, no alcohol, had a lot of time in your own head. What was it like coming out, and how did you start making those changes in your life?
So I just went on this like super big personal journey, right? Personal growth journey. So I couldn't walk, and I only had my left hand that worked. So I began to just dive into everything. I didn't even know who Ed Milet was until after the second wreck, right? And I got involved with, Ryan Stewman, Ed Milet, Eric Thomas, like just I immerse myself with knowledge. Like to this day, I don't even listen to music anymore.
Yeah, me either.
I if I'm in the car, or if I'm working out, it's like an audio tape or something that's going to elevate me as an individual. And so I learned how to be intentional with my life and my time, and it changed me, man. Like I thought journaling was for pussies, right? But it's not, especially when you're doing it intentionally. And I learned this from millionaires and these guys that are ultra successful. And no, they haven't lived maybe my life, but they have some keys to success. And so I don't know if it's Ed Milet or who says it, but success leaves clues, right? And so I began to just grab hold of those clues and implement. And I think the key is to implement. A lot of people read and they take in all this information and they do not shit with it. You have to put it into action, man. And that's our choice. Like no one can make us do the thing every single day that we're supposed to do to have a better tomorrow. It boils down to making new habits. And so I began to make a habit of reading 10 pages every single day, meditating every single day, journaling every single night. And my journaling was intentional. Like I searched for a win every single day. I searched to learn something for my personal growth every single day. And then I searched for at least one thing I did wrong that day, and then how I should have done it better. And so that way I can apply it to my tomorrow, right? Like I began to look at my life objectively. My time is now on a schedule, right? So my mind doesn't, and here's how I beat a lot of my PTSD is being intentional with my time. When I don't have time to veer off and look at something else, and I have to stay focused on the task at hand, just like in the military, right? I have this mission, I have this task. Well, when that's done, I shift right to the next thing, right? Right to the next thing. And so it's very intentional from the time I get up to the time my head hits that bed. And again, I'm not saying that I don't have my nightmares and I don't have my things that I deal with, but I'm able to deal with them in a positive manner now. And really, I've negated a lot of the things that were holding me back from greatness just by being intentional with my life, man. It's crazy.
And one of the things, because now when I had my vision problems, I couldn't read books, so I bought Audible.
Yeah,
and I go through like 3 or 4 books a week.
Yeah,
but one of the books clearly changed my life. And Ed Milet's new book comes out on July 5th. I'm waiting for that one. But Mr. James Clear came out with a book called Atomic Habits, and he talks about your life is ruled by your habits.
It is
40% of your day, up 40 to 60% of your day are just habits that you don't even think about. Yeah. And a lot of people, and I had Mr. David Meltzer on here last week, and he's got a $20 billion business. And he talks about how he will not be successful if he doesn't block out his day. And now a lot of success, but he said a lot of successful men and women, they'll block out time for business, phone calls, sales calls, but they don't block out time for their wife, their kids, grandma, or mental, walking or, some kind of exercise. They don't block that time out. And all they have is this time for business. And then, 50 years down the road, they got the house, they got the car, they got the trophy wife that really doesn't give a shit about them. And a lot of times they're eating at the kitchen table alone because they didn't block out the times for the necessary things. Yeah. So talk about that, that sometimes you got to block out the time for other things, but sometimes you got to block out time for being daddy, for being the husband. You know what I mean?
Oh, 100%. We actually do that. We schedule date nights. We schedule our time to go to the park with the kids. I have, like I said, 3 special need kids. I have 4 altogether, right? And my oldest is a trooper, man, because he's had to face, he just wants to be normal, and he has 3 siblings that have all these different issues, right? But our day looks a lot different than the most. We have to be involved with our kids. Like there is no other option, right? And so we've had to teach them how to function, and actually we've had to teach them how to not come and get us for every little thing. So teaching them how to function, and we're doing the opposite. We're teaching them how to function without us, you know what I mean? Unless they absolutely need us until it's their time, right? But I try almost every single night to spend some type of time with them. Whether we go over vision boards together. I've taught them how to journal. We go over that together. So it's and I think that brings so much more value to my life because they're my rock, man. Like all this other stuff can go away, you know? And maybe it's because I've been injured so many times. But I understand the value that they bring to my life. And I understand that no matter what, they're going to be there. So they get the best version of me, or I try to give them the best version of me. Right. And there was when I got out, there was a length of time where I wasn't, right. When I was drinking like that and I wasn't present, and I vowed to myself to not be that man ever again. I turned into the very person that I didn't want to be because of my childhood, right? And I reverted back to kind of like what my mom did, and she went into abusing alcohol and drugs to try to escape her issues. And so I vowed to myself to not be that again. I quit all of that cold turkey. I'm very intentional with trying to spend time with them and teaching them how to be entrepreneurs too. Like my wife, I brought her into the business. Now we're doing it together. Everything we do is together. This is a family thing. It's not a Chad thing, right? And I think that when you do that and you teach them the business and you show them the ropes, man, it's just all the time. We're always together, dude, and I love it. I really do.
Now, one thing, like I said, I've had a lot of great people on my show, and I want to say thank you for hanging out with me. And I'm always learning. I have great mentors, like my friend Liam. He's down there. You can see him in the comments. Liam and Christopher. They're the ones that taught me how to build a digital business.
Right.
Because we know that's where the world is going, the digital world. So I want to give a big shout out to them. But I also they introduced me a guy named Russell Brunson, he's teaching me about building funnels. So it's amazing how, like one thing my brain goes some crazy sometimes, but Russell says, in his last book, Traffic Secrets, that if you want to be successful in business, especially in the media world, become a content producer and not somebody that just watches Facebook all day long.
Yes.
Be intentional, like you're talking about, intentional. Like, instead of being a content consumer, I'm a social media creator. Yes. So what that means, a lot of times if I put a post out, there's a reason that post is being put out. I'm not just posting hatred about this and hatred about that, or today's political climate. No, I'm trying to be intentional. So if I put something out, there's a reason behind what I'm doing. And I think in life we need to be intentional. And it kind of woke me up yesterday because, like we were talking earlier, yesterday I had to go in for surgery on my eye. My eye's all jacked up. But when they're wheeling you into surgery and you're sitting alone on that gurney, you realize, well, when I get out of here, my wife and kids are going to be waiting for me. That's what matters. Yes. So, everything I do, I have intention in my life. Yes. So, and you've mentioned intention at least 5 or 6 times. So talk about living a purpose-driven and intentional life.
It is, well, you just said it. It changed my world, man. I think you take the power back, right, when you do that. Especially if there's some vets. I know you have a big following of veterans. When you begin to live intentionally, you become the driver of your life, right? You don't allow the past or things that might happen. Those are anxieties that kind of lessen when you begin to take the steering wheel and drive your own life. It gives you a sense of, like you said, purpose. And when you wake up, like I said, I wake up, I know exactly what I'm doing. There's a plan. I feel like like for me, I have gotten to a place where the destination is not as important as the direction, right? At one point in my life, the finish line was what mattered, but I forgot why I was running the race. You know what I mean? And when you're intentional, it's about the whys of it's small compounding wins each and every day that build to these larger things that everyone else sees, right? Everyone sees the large wins, but when you live a purpose-driven life and you're intentional with each second, I think in Ed Mylett's book, I don't know if he's the one that came up with the frame, but or the saying, but he said, if you master the seconds, the minutes will take care of themselves. And it is, I think about that sentence almost every single day, because as I've done that, it has helped me with my PTSD. It's helped me with my relationship with my wife and my kids, with also separating myself from the people in my life that are takers and drain my potential, right? Instead of elevate me, because it's kind of like being in an oak tree. An oak tree seed, if you put it in outside, it'll grow 100 feet, live for 1,000 years. You put that same seed into a vase, it won't grow 100 feet and it won't last 1,000 years, all because of the environment that it's in. So when you live intentional, you begin to place yourself in the right environments around the right people that are going to help elevate you. And so it affects every single facet of your life if you allow it, right?
And one thing I like, I love my friend Gary Vaynerchuk. Something that he talks about is enjoy the process.
Yes.
Because a lot of times, I know sometimes I remember those shitty days in the motor pool where you're cold and you're just tired and hungry and you hated it. But now you look back into those days and you're like, damn, I miss, you know what I mean? So a lot of time we kind of look at, okay, I want to win, football player, they want to win the Super Bowl. But then when they retire, they remember the training days. Yeah. That was the most important. They didn't enjoy the process.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Oh, dude, 100%. I was just on a podcast 2 days ago, and I was telling the person that same thing. Like, everybody, it's kind of like the finish line thing I just mentioned. Like, we can be on the beach drinking Mai Tais, right? And there'll be some good memories there, but nothing like a struggle to get to a top of a mountain, right? Nothing is more memorable. You will have stories and things for days to talk about, right? All because of this struggle that you were in. And yeah, it sucks, but those are the things that stick with us. They teach us our character. And today I almost pray for the hard things. Yeah, they're hard, right? Hence the word. But at the same time, that's where I've learned who I am. That's where I've gained more value out of this life. It hasn't been in the easy things. It hasn't been in the the Mai Tais on the beach, right? It's a great byproduct, and I'm not saying that don't go on those things and don't go on your trips. Of course, treat yourself, but remember that the process, man, there's nothing like it. It's beautiful. The struggles teach you. I think for me, like, I had a learning disability when I grew up, and I grew up being told I was going to be dumb and like my mom. Okay. And when you grow up like that and you believe that, you really stunt your potential. And then you put yourself, like, I burned that bridge, right? When I joined the military, I was kind of talking about how I couldn't go back, right? I couldn't go back to my familiarity. And when you don't give yourself a choice to exit whatever you just entered, whether that's a business, a marriage, a relationship with your kids, whatever we're talking about, right? When you give yourself no other option but figure it the fuck out, magic happens, because there's things on the inside of us we don't even know exist. And it's that pressure and that uncomfort. I liken it to being in a bed, right? When you're in the bed and you're like, oh man, dude, what do we do? The uncomfort makes us move, man. The movement is what gets us in that sweet spot that we can finally, be productive for that night and go to sleep. So people need to understand that it's in that uncomfort that you're going to find out who you are, and that greatness on the inside of you is going to come up and rise to the top, man.
One of my favorite quotes, and I don't know who said it, but I see it all the time, is, get comfortable being uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And because I believe, they say Mr. Jim Rohn said it, you are the average of the 5 people that you hang around with the most. So if you're the smartest one in the room, you need a better room.
Amen.
And like I had Mr. David Meltzer on, and but he talks about how we got to have gratitude.
Yes.
Because gratitude and anger cannot occupy the same spot.
Yeah.
So a lot of times, like for me, like I have this book out by my one of my mentors. His name is John Lee Dumas. He's one of the top podcasters in the world, but his podcast gets 1 million downloads a month. But he's also a United States Army veteran, and he has it's called the 100, to where every night before I go to bed, I have to write down, how was my day, what could I have done better, and what am I grateful for. And then the first thing I wake up in the morning, what are 3 things that I'm grateful for today? So I think if you wake up with gratitude and you go to bed with gratitude, your days become a lot better. Like I said, because gratitude and anger cannot live in the same spot.
Dude, yeah, you're 100% right, man. You're spot on. Like I'll add a little snippet of my life with what you just said. When my daughter had her stroke, right? We were in Germany when it first happened, and they had to do a craniotomy and pull out half her skull because she was going to die because of the pressure on the brain. They misdiagnosed her at the first hospital. They thought she was just having seizures. But long story short, they ended up sending us to Walter Reed and medevacing us there when it was still in D.C. And while we were there, she was in this ward full of other kids that had various really serious things, from leukemia, other strokes, just you name it, man. They're these kids. And I used to take her and move. She couldn't walk. And so part of the reason that she was able to beat the odds is because I would take her legs and move her like she was walking up and down the hallways, man, and just continue to tell her, hey, man, we're going to do this. But as I was doing it, there was a young girl. She had no hair from the chemo that she was on. And my daughter also had to have chemo to fight the disease that caused her stroke. But the difference is that those parents were dealing with something so much more threatening, right, than what I could ever. My daughter was going to live. Yeah, we had a fight, right? But their fight was that much more intense, man. And I'll never forget thinking, man, I am so blessed. I am so blessed that my daughter's not in those shoes. There could always be worse. And that's what people need to understand. Like, no matter what you're going through, there is someone fighting something way worse than what you're going through, man. And you might not see it, but perspective is going to be your reality. And when you can open your eyes and be grateful for every little thing, man, the breath that you have in your body, waking up every day, whatever it is, man, I am literally, especially now, I am thankful for everything. I'm thankful for the damn AC. You know what I mean? I really am, because it could be so much worse, man. It really could.
Yeah, that's why I love this saying. My father, he came from Italy. He came from the old country, and he always said, "The man with no shoes can't complain to the man with no feet."
Amen.
Amen. So talk to us about, for the last couple of minutes, tell us what you got going on, how we can support you.
Yeah, so I'm in the process of writing a book, so look out for that. And my podcast is called The Legend of You, and it will be coming out the 1st of July. Yeah, and then you can find me at my website, mrtenacity.com. My email is mrtenacity40@gmail.com. Facebook is just Chad Osinga, right? But, if you need a speaker, if you need somebody to come motivate a group of people, hit me up. I would love to be able to bless that group with what I got going on and my angle of life. So yeah, man, that's really me right now in the nutshell.
I love it. So last question I have is, we still live in a COVID world. We still have a lot of people out of work. A lot of people ain't working. A lot of people struggling with a lot of different things. So we live very busy lives. Mm-hmm. So, if you ask somebody to do something in 7 days, they're never going to get to it. But if somebody's listening to our podcast right now and we ask them to take an actionable step in the next 24 hours, they're more likely to do it. So if somebody that's listening to us right now is struggling with their own mental health, what can they do in the next 24 hours to get some help?
You know, I think that one, reach out to someone who's been there, right? If you have a lifeline, use it. Being able to get your problems out. When I talked about journaling, I would really encourage people to journal and I have a dump book, right, where I just write and I don't look back into it. Okay, like I just go. Now, if your dump book has to be a recorder, record it. If you're more comfortable being in front of a camera, then do it like that. Whatever works for you, but get it out. It's not going to do anything staying on the inside of you. Lastly, believe in yourself, man. Everything you ever can need is on the inside of you. And if you just bet on yourself and don't give in, keep fighting, keep grinding, the sunshine is going to be there on the other side. I promise you.
I love it. So guys, definitely check out Jad. He's also big on LinkedIn. He just got some great things on LinkedIn. Check him out on Facebook. I've been stalking him everywhere. So, but guys, like I said, check out Chad. Guys, I want to thank you. If you guys love coffee, make sure you check out the Vertical Momentum Coffee. And I just want to say, Chad, thank you so much, brother. I'm so grateful that God put you in my life. And like I talk to anybody that's on my show, I want to build generational relationships. So I'm just so glad that you allow me to be a part of your journey and for you being a part of mine.
Dude, I'm blessed to be here. I was stoked to be invited, and I'm equally happy that I'm in your world, man. So thank you.
All right, VM Nation, we'll be back tomorrow. I love you guys. Remember, like Oprah said, the best way to help yourself is to help somebody else.
Mm-hmm.
All right, guys, I love you. Remember, vertical momentum, the only way to go is up. I love you guys, and I will catch you tomorrow.